Dunkin' Donuts was born from past experiences. That experience came in the form of hard work by its founder Bill Rosenberg. In 1950, the year Dunkin' Donuts first opened, Rosenberg had already honed his idea from a lunch food truck for factory workers to a small donut shop called Open Kettle. After realizing that donuts and coffee were his best sellers, Rosenberg, along with his brother-in-law Harry Winokur, opened their first restaurant called Open Kettle in Quincy, Massachusetts in 1948. The partners served donuts for 5 cents and premium cups of coffee for 10 cents. The goal was to make and serve the freshest, most delicious coffee and donuts quickly and courteously. The concept worked, and the restaurant became very popular. 2 years later, the demand was so high that they began to look for opportunities to open other locations. At this point, they began to brainstorm a new, more fitting name, and they landed on Dunkin' Donuts after seeing customers commonly dip their donuts into their coffee. The name was catchy and described perfectly what their restaurant was all about. Dunkin' Donuts sold 52 varieties of donuts, a concept that was new to customers at the time, but it resulted in huge sales. Other shops were selling only 5 different donuts, so the variety alone was enough to attract new customers from all around Quincy. Before long, there were Dunkin' Donuts restaurants across Massachusetts, where customers could watch as the bakers made the donuts fresh each day. Rosenberg credited Howard Johnson and his own chain of franchised ice cream stores with giving him the idea to begin franchising Dunkin' Donuts. This is where the partners, Rosenberg and Winokur, decided to go their own separate ways. They were at odds over franchising, so Harry left to pursue his own chain, which would become Mr. Donut. Rosenberg, on the other hand, leaned hard into the franchise model. In 1955, the first franchised restaurant was opened in Massachusetts, and by 1963, the company had opened its 100th location. The year 1963 was also when Bill Rosenberg decided to hand off the business to his 25-year-old son, Bob, who was fresh out of Harvard Business School and anxious to grow Dunkin' Donuts even further. The menu and shop format was standardized, and various new menu items were introduced. By the late 1970s, the chain had grown to 1,000, and within a few years, sit-down counter service, along with ceramic coffee cups, were replaced by a self-service counter and paper cups. The chain was transitioning to suit the needs of a fast food culture. Also, during the 1980s, an iconic national advertising campaign was launched featuring Fred the Baker, who would famously wake up early and state, "Time to make the donuts." This tagline would be used throughout the 1980s and into the 1990s, making Dunkin' a household name across the country. In 1990, Dunkin' Donuts was purchased by Baskin-Robbins' parent company. It was during this time that Dunkin' Donuts began to aggressively expand by purchasing other rival chains. One of the chains Dunkin' bought was Mr. Donut, which ended up reuniting the two companies following the split back in 1955. By 1998, the Dunkin' Donuts brand had grown to 2,500 locations worldwide and was doing $2 billion in annual sales. A few years later, the company found itself in competition with a fast-growing coffee chain called Starbucks, and so Dunkin' decided to refocus their marketing efforts on the popularity of a new wave of coffee culture. In 2006, they also began using a new slogan, "America runs on Dunkin'," which signified their intention to be a coffee-focused company. Despite the word donuts being in the name, coffee made up 63% of their business. So it's no surprise that as the years passed, the company began shedding the word donuts from their branding. First, the name was shortened to DD in the logo. Then, more recently, the name of the company switched to just Dunkin', which was a common way for customers to refer to the chain anyways, so it made perfect sense. Today, Dunkin' has over 11,000 restaurants worldwide, with over 8,500 in the US alone. Those brightly colored orange and pink buildings that now peddle specialty coffee still offer over 50 varieties of donuts in the tradition of that first location in Quincy. Speaking of Quincy, Massachusetts, if you visit the original location, you will find it fully restored, still serving coffee and donuts. For Dunkin', it's all about convenience and cashing in on that early morning rush. Over the years, plenty has changed, but what hasn't is the need for that morning coffee and the occasional donut. With new locations opening all the time, it's certainly not hard to find one close by. Let me know in the comments your own thoughts or memories of stopping by Dunkin' Donuts over the years. If you enjoyed this video, check out the description for links that help support the channel. And as always, thank you so much for watching.